For 30 BC, Athens is the jewel of the Mediterranean. It is the birthplace of democracy, the home of Socrates, and the strongest naval power on earth. They are at war with Sparta, but they are confident. Behind their long walls, they are safe, or so they thought. While the Spartan army burned the fields outside, an invisible enemy was sailing toward the city's heart, the port of Piraeus. It didn't come with swords or shields. It came in the blood and breath of merchants and soldiers. Within weeks, the golden age of Greece would be reduced to a pile of ash and unburied corpses. This wasn't just an outbreak. It was the first time in human history that a disaster was recorded with the precision of a medical journal. Today, on Photography, we are stepping back 2,500 years to witness the first recorded pandemic in history. This is the story of how a tiny microbe brought the world's first democracy to its knees. To understand why this pandemic was so deadly, you have to understand the geography. Athens was a city designed for 100,000 people. But when the war with Sparta began, the great leader Pericles ordered every farmer and villager in the surrounding countryside to move inside the city walls for protection. Imagine it, nearly 300,000 people crammed into narrow streets, living in huts, tents, and even temples. It was a logistical nightmare. Sanitation was non-existent, the heat was stifling. In modern epidemiology, we call this a Petri dish. You had high population density, poor hygiene, and a stressed, malnourished population. All that was missing was a spark. That spark arrived in 430 BC according to the historian Thucydides. Our primary witness, the plague originated in Ethiopia, moved through Egypt and Libya, and finally crossed the Mediterranean. When it hit the port of Piraeus, the Athenians were so confused by the sudden deaths that they initially thought the Spartans had poisoned their wells. They were wrong. The enemy was much smaller and much more patient. We know about this pandemic because of one man, Thucydides. He didn't just watch the plague, he caught it. And unlike the people of his time, who blamed the gods or magic, Thucydides decided to record the symptoms with brutal, scientific honesty. He wanted future generations to recognize the disease if it ever returned. His descriptions are the stuff of nightmares. It started with a violent heat in the head. The eyes turned red and inflamed, the throat and tongue would begin to bleed, and the breath became unnaturally stinking. But that was just the beginning. Next came the coughing and the chest pains. Then, the vicious vomiting of bile. Thucydides describes the skin of the victims as being reddish and livid, breaking out in small pustules and ulcers. People felt such a burning heat inside their bodies that they couldn't even stand to wear light linen. They wanted to be naked. Many, driven mad by thirst and fever, threw themselves into the public wells, desperately trying to cool their internal fire. Most died on the 7th or 8th day. If they survived that long, the disease moved into the bowels, causing violent ulceration and unremitting diarrhea that led to exhaustion and death. Those who survived even that often lost their fingers, their toes, or their eyesight. Some even lost their memory entirely, forgetting who they were and who their families were. A pandemic doesn't just kill bodies, it kills societies. As the death toll climbed into the tens of thousands, the social fabric of Athens began to tear. Thucydides noted a lawless extravagance that took over the city. People who were once pious and law-abiding suddenly realized that the good were dying just as fast as the wicked. If the gods weren't protecting the innocent, why bother being good? The most sacred traditions were abandoned. In ancient Greece, a proper burial was essential for the soul's journey to the afterlife, but the plague made this impossible. People would wait for someone else to build a funeral pyre, and then they would toss their own dead relative on top of it and run away. Some even fought over the flames. The fear was so great that doctors were the first to die, as they were the ones most exposed to the sick. Soon, no one wanted to visit the ill. Families died alone in their homes. The streets were filled with the half-dead, staggering toward fountains. Then came the ultimate blow. Pericles, the man who had led Athens to its greatest heights, watched his sister and both of his legitimate sons die from the plague. Shortly after, the great Pericles himself succumbed to the disease. The first man of Athens was gone. Without his leadership, the city spiraled into political chaos, leading to disastrous military decisions that would eventually lose them the war against Sparta. For over 2,000 years, historians and scientists have argued, what was the Plague of Athens? The symptoms Thucydides described don't perfectly match any single disease we know today. For decades, the leading theories were smallpox, bubonic plague, or measles. Some even suggested a form of Ebola or a viral hemorrhagic fever. In 2006, we got our first real lead. Archaeologists discovered a mass grave in the Kerameikos cemetery in Athens, containing about 150 bodies dating back to the time of the plague. Scientists from the University of Athens extracted DNA from the dental pulp of 3 of those victims. The result? They found traces of Salmonella enterica cerevisiae, the bacterium responsible for typhoid fever. Does this solve the mystery? Not entirely. While typhoid explains the fever and the intestinal issues, it doesn't fully explain the skin pustules or the rapid spread. Many experts believe the Plague of Athens might have been a combination of diseases, or perhaps a strain of a virus that has since evolved or gone extinct. Whatever it was, it killed roughly 25% to 33% of the city's population. It effectively ended the Golden Age and shifted the course of Western history. The Plague of Athens was the first time humanity realized that our greatest civilizations are only as strong as our smallest enemies. Thucydides wrote his account because he believed that history is a mirror, that what happened then would happen again. He was right. From the Black Death to the Spanish flu to the global challenges we face today, the patterns remain the same: the fear, the social tension, and the desperate search for a cure. Annie Taylor survived the falls, and computer viruses changed our digital lives, but the first recorded pandemic reminds us that our very survival is a constant battle with the natural world. If you want to see more deep dives into the firsts that shaped our world, make sure to subscribe to Photography. What historical mystery should we uncover next? Let us know in the comments. I'm the voice of Photography, and thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next chapter.